Everybody, if we can stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome, everybody. We are going to start with our exemplary people, and that is the Massac Girls Basketball Program. So we are going to go over here with all the girls. If you could meet us over here.
Everyone, this is a great honor to recognize the girls' basketball team and the coaches for the Officials Award for sportsmanship, because it's not just the wins and losses that matter to us. It's also how we conduct ourselves in the field and in play and after and practices and all around how you're carrying yourself as representatives of Massac High School. So I've asked John DeGennaro to say a couple of words about all your successes this year and last year. This is the second year in a row for winning this award.
Thank you, Mr. Alexine. As former boys basketball coach here at Massac High School from 1999 to 2013, I understand what the Harold Swafield Sportsmanship Award means and represents, and also how difficult it is to win. So when we got the letter again this year that we won it for the second year in a row, I was extremely proud. Each year, IBO Board Number 9 basketball officials representing Fairfield County award certain programs that demonstrate the most consistent level of good sportsmanship on and off the court. And that only includes the players, the coaches, but also the fans as well. As site director at home games, I had the opportunity to escort the officials to and from the locker rooms at halftime and at the end of the games. And what I'm most proud of is when those officials, outside observers of our programs, let me know how well our student athletes and our coaches are representing themselves and the school, not only on how hard they are playing and how hard they're competing, but their displays of sportsmanship. And this award cannot be won if it's just displayed at home. It also has to be displayed on the road during times of adversity and when a lot of times cheers are going against you, and it's how well our players are representing themselves. So I'm very proud of that. And that's why it is so impressive that we have won it 2 years in a row under the leadership of Coach Laskowski and her staff, and why tonight they're being represented by the, recognized by the Monroe Board of Education as exemplary people. Thank you.
Congratulations, girls.
Thank you.
You're going to have to pose for a picture.
Thank you.
Okay. See if we can fit everybody in.
You guys got to get all in because we're going to have a picture on Facebook. You're going to have to scrunch. Yeah, some of you guys got to kind of scooch down in front.
There we go.
That's okay, we're tall
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Good
team.
job.
Nice job.
Thank you, Scott. Girls, thank you.
What a great honor for our girls' basketball program. We will move on to the report of the chairman. I do not have anything this evening.
Great coach, guys.
So let's move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. Do I have any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you. Motion passes. We will move on to our reports of our committees and liaisons, and up first is our Massac reps.
This Wednesday, there will be a PTC meeting in the library. this Thursday and Friday, there will be no school. And this coming Monday night, there will be a spring sports parent meeting about how to pay and everything and what's going on with the sports. And speaking of sports, many of the winter sports just ended. For example, for swimming, Opens was this last Saturday, and the banquet was Sunday. So looks like we're beginning the spring season. So yeah.
Next Tuesday will be a junior scholarship quest at 6:15, followed by at 7:30, an understanding your financial aid award letter for seniors and their parents. This is some of the many programs that Guidance has for the students and for the parents to help them get into college and help realize how do I fund college and what are the different vehicles for paying for this large expense that's going to come up for everybody. And the end of quarter 3 is quickly approaching. It's going to be Thursday, the 31st of March. So that's pretty soon. Then next Friday, we're going to have the drama. That's Friday, April 1st. So there's a new drama, which is Cards on the Table by Agatha Christie. That'll be playing Friday night, Saturday night, and also there's a Saturday matinee. Also on Friday, April 1st, is the Da Vinci Festival, which is going to be nice. That's on Friday and Saturday. So it's going to help showcase all the different Massac artists and all the different things and show really how Massac supports the arts and our different students' creativities and programs. There won't be any school this Thursday and Friday. Thursday is going to be for the teachers only. And then we're going to have an advisory this week. And that's everything coming up.
Great. Great, thank you. Alan?
Yeah, in terms of sports, I think canoe broke a record, didn't you? Swimming record?
The 200 individual medley.
Wow, you didn't bring that up? Congratulations.
What's the new record?
It went from a 205.63, I think, to a 204.82.
Wow. Wow. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. And admit you were great in the fashion show on Wednesday night.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have any committee reports this evening? All right, hearing none, we will move on to public participation.
Not a public.
Well, there's nobody to participate, so we will move on to report of the superintendent.
Okay, we'll start with the fund statement. Gabby?
So very quickly, we had 3 vendors come to the walkthrough for food services back in February, and we received 1 bid, which we'll talk about a little bit later tonight. And we received that from our current food services company. Also, quickly, we are, obviously it's the end of March, so we're looking at spending. Nobody's making me too nervous, but we are, obviously continuing to look at things. Luckily, the snow did not fall this winter, so we might have a little bit of savings in there. So that's all good. And finally, insurance claims, we're still pretty much on target with our budget. And we've had 2 individuals hit stop loss through the end of February, but we're trending pretty close to where we were last year. So it's relatively quiet right now.
Great. Great. Does anybody have any questions on the fund statement or on insurance? All right. Thank you.
Okay, and the budget update. Where we are, when we came back from the holidays, the board adopted a 1.96% budget. That's been tossed around with Board of Finance now for almost, a month and a half or so. The Board of Finance, the unofficial word that I have at this point, I have not received official word of where we are, but they did indicate to me that they wanted to cut an additional $220,000 from the Board of Education budget. And here's how they were recommending that we do that. First of all, we have both the loader for $45,000 and the F-550 truck for $80,000 currently in the operational budget. What they'd like to do is take those 2 items out and move them to the town side under a bond. Okay. In addition, they're thinking, because we're trending so well with the medical insurance, that there's about $100,000 there that we may be able to reduce. In addition, we renegotiated a contract with oil for $50,000 savings. They'd like to take that as well. Knowing, though, full well that we are in a position now where it's pretty apparent that we're going to need to hire an additional kindergarten teacher, so they would put $60,000 back into the budget for that, bringing us to a total deduction of 220. But 135,000 of that is automatically, just because it's bonded. 50,000 of that is because we found that savings in a renegotiated oil price, and then because of the medical trending the way it is, I think we can handle that cut at this point, and go forward with it. But I have not heard officially. I think they have to give us a specific
This week?
number probably by the end of this week, right?
Well, I think they had to actually do it by charter by the 21st, which is
Today.
tonight.
Today.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were meeting tonight, though.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah. So that's what I know about the budget at this point. I don't anticipate that suggestion would be detrimental to us. I actually applaud their efforts in trying to work with us by bringing those items over to the bond and really being respectful of the fact that we need to hire a kindergarten teacher. So I think we're in good shape. Monroe reads. I'd like to share with you an experience I've never had before. Jack and I had this great opportunity. Jack made contact with the crew coach at Yale. I don't know if you realize, but their headquarters for crew is right down in Derby on the Housatonic River there at the boathouse. And he invited us down to come and watch a practice. So last Wednesday afternoon, about 3:30 or so, Jack and I wandered down there, got on the launch with the assistant coach, and we watched the crew practice going on, trying to get some insights in preparation for our big event, the Forum book talk on the 29th. So Jack, you got a quick slide here?
Are we moving?
No, it's so short we could just turn.
Okay. Well, I'll get up. I don't block anybody.
Can you guys see it? Now, there's the boathouse, and it was the heavy. We stayed with the heavyweights. I like having a motor behind me. So it takes them a little while to warm up, but once they get warmed up in these practices, and they're going 30 strokes per minute or 28 strokes per minute, they're really flying. It's really incredible to see. So we're very excited about that. It was a great opportunity. Jack said we could cross that off our bucket list.
Well, no, you have to get in the boat and actually
Oh,
do
is that what
it.
we have to do? We received word from the state to the Connecticut Education Network. The governor, as you know, is up against some challenges with the budget, and now on the table for getting cut is support of the CEN. The CEN, we rely on the CEN to run our operations, internet, and all of those educational accesses that we have. And the loss, if the governor or if the state decides not to fund that portion anymore, that's going to be about $1,000 a month shortfall that we will have, or $12,000 for the year. So we're just watching to see where this shoe is going to fall, or if this shoe will fall. The turf field. Turf field is moving along. We had a meeting last week on the 8th, I believe it was. Was it the 8th? I think it was the 8th. No, I'm sorry. The 8th was the referendum, the 15th. And here's where things stand with the turf field. We have 2 approvals that we need to get through P&Z, okay? And inland wetlands. We have to go there as well. Those meetings are scheduled in April. The dilemma that we were facing is that if we want to get the contract and RFP out as quickly as possible, in order that a contract can be reviewed in time for the first May meeting of the town council to approve, okay? If we go to the second one, we could run into some time issues. So we did not want to be presumptuous that we would get the approvals from P&Z and just go out with an earlier RFP. So Gabby, Jack, and I met with Pat O'Hara earlier or later last week and talked that through, and he saw no problem with us submitting the RFP before the approval process. He saw them as 2 separate issues. that way we can get that ball rolling and hopefully town council approve a contract so that we can have shovels in the ground on June 15th going forward, okay? So Malone and McBroom is in full gear in writing the RFP, getting all the building specs finalized and all of the final documents that have to be in place. They will be representing us at the April meetings with P&Z and inland wetlands and doing their thing to help us get all the paperwork done in time. So I'm confident that we can, if we can pull all this off, we could have shovels in the ground by June 15th, which I'm fairly confident we'll be able to do.
Great.
What do we have, sorry, Don, what do we have ahead of ourselves with those two committees? Any concerns?
I don't know, Gabby, the concerns, we had gone and changed the light usage time slots, the special exemption permit. We need to get it, we're getting that amended, that regulation amended at this point, right?
Well, what's happening is that the proposed height of the light fixtures, which although they're in phase 2, we still want to have, you know, all the infrastructure in there. The proposed height of the new light fixtures would be 80 feet, and the current ones are 65 feet high. The problem is that the way the town regulations are is that you're not allowed to have any light poles higher than 14 feet in a residential zone. All of our schools are in residential zones, so we have to have them, basically, it's not a special exemption permit so much as it's actually, and I don't know if I have the right term, but it's a text amendment to the regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to write, the text amendment to the regulation has to be passed before they'll give us the special exemption permit for all of it. So my
So
understanding.
hopefully that was gonna happen on the 7th.
Right, that's the 7th, so that has to happen on the 7th, and then on the meeting on the
21st. I think.
21st, yeah, 21st, they'll actually pass the special exemption. Both of them have public hearings attached to them as well. But they've gotten all the, we've actually we sent out the notices to all the abutters for both meetings. They were sent out last Friday. So everybody knows. The nice thing that we have going for us is that we have an existing field and we have existing lighting. The new lighting, even though the poles are higher, it's more concentrated, so the whole light spillage thing apparently only works out to, it's the exact same spillage that you have currently with 65-foot poles.
And the difference is you have 15 lumens of light on the field now, and you'll have something
50
closer
or
to 50
50.
lumens with the new lights,
Right.
with the same amount of spillage.
Right.
So, but they have, Malone and McBroom did a study on that. They have all that data that they'll be presenting that evening.
And then the only other thing is that we have an inland wetland hearing. It was originally scheduled for this Wednesday, the 23rd, but we weren't notified in time to send out notice to the abutters. There's a 15-day notice period for inland wetland. So that meeting, they'll start it, but they'll continue it to April 13th. And their inland wetland is more, they're concerned about things like runoff and if the light spillage would affect any animals that
Wildlife,
grow
yeah.
in the wetlands, or not grow, habitate, whatever the.
And they're worried too about leachates. You know, you have, you know, the turf itself, the artificial grass. You know, does that leach any chemicals or anything of that nature?
And the fill also, would the fill migrate, and, you know, since we have an organic fill, the impact on any wetlands would be less, one would hope.
So that's where we are with the turf field. There's a lot of excitement around the project, and you know, like I say, everything should go smoothly. We're being careful to keep everybody posted that needs to be posted on next steps, and away we go.
Great. Anybody have questions?
If the shovels are in the ground for June 15th, how long do they estimate it would take to complete?
They're talking about a 90-day construction window, and a 90-day construction window would mean no delays, you know, perfect weather, all of those things. And that would bring us, I think, to the second week of September roundabout,
I
okay?
think it was maybe September 9th.
Yeah, but we're gonna go a little bit further out in terms of how we schedule the field so that we're not on the field until probably the first week in October or so, just to be on the safe side. If we can get on it earlier, then we could always change games.
Anybody else? All right.
That's it.
All right. I'm sorry. I meant,
What happens to sports like football or field hockey or soccer and stuff if we start in October?
What we'll do is schedule all of our home games away during that time period.
And practices will be on the other field?
The practices on the other fields, yeah. Yeah, so it's gonna be a little inconvenient. But I think that the benefits far outweigh the disadvantages that we'll have in the beginning.
And then in terms of the organic fill and stuff, like have you guys decided who you're buying from? And
We
things
haven't
like
decided
that?
who we're buying from.
And then is it like cork or coconut? I saw both were up on the like online downloads.
The one that we like and the one that we're going forward with is the GeoFill. And it's a 60% sand and 40% coconut husk. So,
anybody else? All right, we will move on. There is no presentation, so we will go into old business. And we have two curriculum proposals. We have the new course and materials for finance and investing, and also the new course for facing history and ourselves, which will be an honors level class. Both of them would be for anybody in grades 10, 11, and 12 here at the high school. Do I have a motion to approve those two new courses?
So much.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Alan, thank you. Is there any discussion on these? All right, hearing none, all in favor of passing these two courses, finance and investing and facing history and ourselves? Thank you very much. Motion passes. We will move on to new business, which we will talk about now, the food RFP and our first review of that.
as you know, this has been a long saga of events the past year and a half, and having to rebid this and go through the process again. Remember, we had a faulty template from the State Department, and the USDA did not like that and made us, all 41 of us, I think 49 districts that use that template go out for rebid. So we went out for a rebid. 3 companies showed up for the mandatory walkthrough, but only one bidder, our current supplier, actually submitted a bid. So Gabby, we could walk through this and score this as a committee of the whole of the board, and actually move this forward for approval. Gabby, you want to take it from the top?
Sure. So one of the sheets in front of you, it says District Food Service RFP Proposal Evaluation Form
Looks like this sheet.
1, Individual Scoring. If you could all please, it's sort of been pre-filled out, but if you could all just put your names on it as part of the committee, I'd greatly appreciate it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the questions. We only have like 4 copies of the actual proposals, 5 copies of it. So if you could share, that would be great. And if anybody wants to hang on to one and look at it, you're more than welcome to.
Sorry, Al, thank you. No, she's too good, she knows all. Go ahead. Yeah, we're good.
So I also handed out a little sheet for you. It says facts on bid response from Sodexo in response to SDE scoring sheets, State Department of Ed scoring sheet, and it's just a little typewritten page with 15 facts on it, which correspond to pretty much the scoring sheet. So the first one, FSMC is registered to do business in the state of Connecticut, and yes, Sodexo is registered to do business in the state of Connecticut. The second one, FSMC has been doing business for 5 consecutive years or more in school districts. The answer is yes, Sodexo has been doing business in Monroe for more than 5 years. It's actually been in the state of Connecticut at multiple districts since 1983. And in the actual bid proposal, there is a list of all the districts that Sodexo is currently at and how long they've been at them. Okay, it also lists 2 districts where they no longer are. One of them, they voluntarily left, and the other one they lost in a competitive bid. And that's, you know, pretty average for the companies. The third one, FSMC has provided a surety letter indicating company has the ability to obtain a performance bond in the amount of 10% of total sales. And there's actually a copy of a surety bond in there. It's towards the back of the bid package. And I don't know the letter off the top of my head, I apologize, but there's a whole stack of financial information in there. FSMC provided financial statements from 3 operating units that most closely match the characteristics of the SFA. Just so you know, FSMC is Food Service Management Company. SFA is School Food Authority. We are the SFA. Sodexo is the FSMC. And there's actually a disc in there that has all their financials on it. So if anybody would like to look through that, they're more than welcome to. FSMC provided annual reports of financial statements certified by a licensed public accountant with 3-year financial summary. Yes, that's also, again, on a disc in that package. FSMC provided a letter of transmittal. Yes, that's, I believe it's section C-1 or C.1 is the letter of transmittal. FSMC provided an executive summary. Yes, they did that as well. That would be right after the letter of transmittal. FSMC provided a bid bond in the amount of 5% of the total sales. Yes, that's in there as well. And FSMC provided the requested number of proposals to include a minimum of 1 digital copy for the CSD. And yes, I have a flash drive from them that we can upload. Well, that I have to upload to the State Department of Ed. The next piece, this is kind of where things fell apart 2 years ago, is the evaluation criteria. The rules from the USDA state that price has to be the highest point total and the primary factor in the decision point values. So it is. It's worth 15 points. That's the highest point value of all the other points. So anyways, so how do you look at price? And what you also have in front of you, you have something called the Monroe School District Bid Analysis. It's basically just a quick Excel spreadsheet which shows you how they propose to make money. It breaks out where the cash income comes from, where the reimbursements are coming from. We get state and federal reimbursements, how many meals are going to be served, the prices for the meals, the reimbursement rates, the number of lunch serving days, and then it breaks out the costs. There's food costs, there's salaries, there's payroll costs, there's benefits, and then there's other expenses such as, you know, travel. Obviously, the district manager has to travel between buildings. There's cafeteria supplies. We need spoons, we need trays, napkins, things like that. Commodity delivery, we get certain commodities from the federal, but they charge us to have it delivered. Computer maintenance, that's our point of sales. So that's when when the students either swipe their ID or punch in their code. Depreciation, we have a bunch of new equipment in the high school and in some of the elementaries that we have to depreciate over the next 5 years. Those were purchased 2 years ago, if you recall. We spent about $107,000. Insurance, obviously they have, various office supplies, the cost of the performance bond. Physicals, our food service workers are required to have physicals for their employment contracts with Sodexo. So we have to pay for that. Uniforms, laundry, obviously you notice they're all in their Sodexo uniforms when they're serving. And finally, fuel and delivery charges. And then there's a management fee. So there's 2 columns on here. One is that if we maintain the current status quo with NASIC on something called the National School Lunch Program, which is where we get reimbursed by the federal government for lunches, and the other one proposes taking NASIC off that. Either way, we have a small return for the first year, and then we're guaranteed to break even. If we don't break even, Sodexo will basically reimburse us to break even in the cafeteria account. I think the decision, and we can hold off on this, is whether or not to bring NASIC off the National School Lunch Program. What that basically would do is allow the high school food program to be a little more creative. It would allow them to not follow federal guidelines for things like sodium. It doesn't mean we're gonna become unhealthy. It doesn't mean we're suddenly gonna just start serving fried chicken fingers and french fries every day. It means we may be able to serve things like sushi.
But with something like that being done, would that hurt us in any way for being recognized for a Blue Ribbon School or any school of distinction, any type of awards or anything?
No, because my understanding is those awards are all academic awards.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't hurt us, it would not hurt us for accreditation.
Any other funding avenues that we might lose other than?
We would lose the reimbursement,
Yeah.
and what we would want to do is we would obviously absorb any students who are currently on free or reduced, we would absorb their participation. So we would not take away their ability to eat lunch or breakfast.
Yeah.
So we would maintain that participation. Just to give you an idea, Newtown did that with Newtown High School about 3 years ago and saw their participation greatly increase.
Are they still on the, are
They're
they
still
still
on.
off?
Yes, they're still off. For the high school, they're off. For their middle school and elementary schools, they're on. What it really, the only way you can do this is if you have a relatively low free and reduced lunch factor. If you go to districts in Lower Fairfield County, none of them are on the National School Lunch Program. Just, it's something we can talk about, we can toss around, but when I put the bids out, I wanted to bid it both ways because I wanted to see what kind of creative ideas we could come up, what we would get back.
Then my other question is Sodexo ready to be off the NSLP? Are they off it in other districts that they're in? To be more creative, to be able to come up with their own menus and so on and so forth.
Well, I think it's not just coming up with the own menu, it's the ingredients you can use and the amount. Like right now, you're limited
Portion
in,
sizes.
you're limited in portion sizes.
Yeah.
So you have to, a lunch serving has to include X things also to be reimbursed. You have to have a fruit, you have to have a grain, you have to have a protein, you have to have a dairy to have reimbursement. You can buy, a student can buy lunch and not take all that, we just won't get reimbursed and they'll get charged an a la carte price. So that's basically what this does, is it eliminates this, you have to buy this, you have to buy that, you have to buy that, and it'll eliminate, kids having to buy that package of carrots that they pick up at the register and then just chucking them. So it would potentially eliminate some waste.
Okay. So, but are they ready for it? Is
I think
Sodexo
Sodexo
ready?
is ready for it, yes.
Okay.
I mean, the participation here at the high school hovers just under 50%, which is pretty unusual in the state for programs that are on the National School Lunch Program.
It does remarkably well.
It does very well, yeah. That's considered high.
But the RFP does not hinge on this topic. This is something we can revisit.
That's what I'm saying, it's like something to discuss. I just wanted to explain the difference to everyone so they could understand why one is a return of $10,000 and why one's a $25,000 return.
I think it's smart to look at this.
I'm
I
sorry?
think it's smart
Yeah,
to look at
very
this.
smart.
Yeah, makes sense.
How about our Massic wraps? Any?
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to have more creative options. Just add more variety. I'm sure more kids would go eat lunch. I'm sure I would. So.
You want a real bacon BLT, don't you?
Yeah, that was one of the things we talked about. Is like, oh, this would be great if you could make. They currently, right now at Massic, they have a panini press, so you can get a grilled cheese and tomato.
Yes.
Wow, it'd be really great if you could get a grilled cheese, tomato, and bacon. It was like the first thing I thought of. They were like, yeah, no. As an adult, I could get it, but yeah, you guys.
And what do you boys think about, having to take all these things? Are you dumping some of that stuff that you're not eating?
Yeah, a good amount. Like she said, with the carrots, those do get dumped a lot. The fruit, a good amount. It almost seems like a waste at this point. So.
I think there was the issue when they started that whole thing that you have to get the fruit to get lunch, that everybody was throwing it out. So Mrs. Schwartz tried to get us to be able to take it over to the food pantry, but I think there was issues with that came up. But I think a lot of people kind of threw out the carrots, maybe get rid of the fruit sometimes, maybe with the milk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think there are people who come for a certain thing, like they want to get their pizza slices, they want certain things, and they have to get a la carte or different mixtures, which ends up driving up the cost for them.
Yeah.
Would this affect just the lunch health nutrition,
Breakfast
or
and
just
lunch.
would coffee cart fall under this? Is this what deals with that?
No, it doesn't have to do with the coffee cart. It's strictly breakfast and lunch in the cafeteria.
Thank you for your feedback.
Yep.
Go ahead, Kanu.
I remember, you mentioned a couple of meetings ago that there needed to be multiple bids. Is that still like necessary?
Well, that's what the USDA would have liked to have happen. There's really no way to make other companies come in and bid on a package or on a proposal. So I'm not quite sure how the USDA is reacting to this. In speaking with other business managers and in speaking with our food service manager, the rep, he said that has been going on across the state, that people have been just getting one bid. And it's traditionally been by the company that currently has the contract.
Go ahead.
Can I ask why? Why is that happening?
I have no idea. I have my suspicions, but I'm not going to voice them.
Usually when you have a company that's in a kitchen already for a while, they're pretty, it's known to other companies that it's very rare that they're gonna get that contract, unless they're doing a really poor job. But, so far they've been doing a good job, and nobody's, we haven't been complaining about Sodexo. And usually when Board of Education complains about their food service, it gets out to the other food service companies, and then you'll see more RFPs. But like right now, they've been doing fine. So it costs money to do all that too. For each company to submit it, it's an expense. So you have to look at it from that point of view also.
In the past, when we bid this out 2 years ago, we did receive 2 bids, which was great. One was from Chartwell's and one was from Sodexo, and the board chose to stay with Sodexo. I mean, it was close. At the end of the day, all the companies are very, very similar, because in a piece of it, they're sort of tied by the legislation for the National School Lunch Program. So I'm not sure how creative you can be with certain things.
Yes, Sam.
When can we decide if we're gonna opt out of the national program?
We could put it on another, maybe next month's agenda. One of those meetings, start the conversation at least.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
All right, so anyway, so price, so we just talked through price. So, please feel free to award as many points or as few points as you would like objectively to the one bidder. Okay, so moving along, experience, references, and service capability. This really talks to their employees, and Sodexo trains their employees annually. They all have to be something called Food Safe Certified, which means they know how to serve food safely. It has to do with just some common sense things, but also some health things. If you ever walk into the cafeterias, kind of not right at the crush of lunchtime, you'll see them putting thermometers in the deli meat or putting a thermometer in the hot food, and it's basically to take the temperature. It has to be within a certain range, otherwise it has to get taken off and pretty much thrown out. So employees are trained on that. They get OSHA training. They're also trained on civil rights training, because part of the National School Lunch Program is that you can't discriminate against students who are on free and reduced, and that's part of the Civil Rights Act. So they're all trained under that. We talked about their financial condition, their accounting and reporting systems. That's something that I look at. They give me monthly reports, which show me how they're trending in labor, in food costs, in commodity costs. Currently this year, we're pretty much at a break even. We're about $1,000 in the hole, which means they'll have to put, as of right now, they would have to put $1,000 into our cafeteria account. So, I mean, that's pretty good. A lot of food service companies across the state actually run a deficit. There's one that runs about $100,000 on an annual basis. Yeah. So this is not a profitable business, unfortunately. It's a really, really hard business, and the margins are really, really slim. Okay. So the last couple, and this is kind of where the paragraph gets long-winded. But if you would like to go through the proposals, some of the things that they're proposing on doing to encourage more participation includes adding a food truck here at Massac.
I saw that.
Which I thought is kind of a neat idea. There's actually a picture in there of a food truck superimposed on the front of Massac. The other thought that they have is actually adding after-school meals. So if you have sports practices, or if you're staying for help or band, or you're in between things, that you can come in and grab something. Because if you think about it, first lunch wave at Massac is at 10:45. So you could potentially be pretty hungry by about 2:30 when you're supposed to hit a soccer field and run for the next hour and a half. So that's an idea that they have. There's also would like to expand the coolers at Jockey Hollow to encourage more grab and go. For those of you who have been in Jockey Hollow, it's a very small, tight serving space, and the cooler where they have the pre-made salads it's tiny. It's probably about this wide and this high. So they'd like to actually expand that so more students can grab salads, which are become popular. As the weather changes, we notice a lot more students eating salads and eating healthier and trending away from the super hot foods and things like that. They're would also like to add a smoothie bar at some of the schools, and adding some technology to allow touchscreen ordering, menu apps, and electronic menus. The menus are already electronic, but I don't think a lot of people take advantage of them. I personally know that I look at it daily because I can't remember what ever gets served on a Tuesday at Fawn Hollow. That's just me. Other ideas that they've talked about doing is including a culinary throwdown contest here at Massac, which would kind of play off the Future Chefs contest that they run at the elementary level, which I thought would be kind of neat. And also some more exhibition cooking where the students have meals prepared in front of them. Right now, I believe they do some stuff with like the General Tso's chicken and things that, these guys are just nodding. I think I'm making them really hungry. A lot of times they do that with the carving stations also, and am I missing anything? Exhibition cooking? There's a
The
couple
big
of-
one is when they do the stir fry. That's
The
like
stir fry, right, the stir fry one is usually a big hit. And also there's a thought of something called fine dining, which apparently is really popular in some other parts of the country, where they actually set the tables with tablecloths and encourage the students to come dressed up and sit and eat like a nice proper meal. Which I don't know, I thought that was
They're
kind of cool.
laughing, I'm
Oh, that's
thinking
like an
no.
avenue.
I didn't know that was
Maybe not at the high school, I think that's maybe more elementary or middle
could see
school
that.
geared, but I thought it was kind of a neat little, fun little thing. I mean, I could see a bunch of first graders coming in being all dressed up and sitting down at the table.
Professional.
I'm not sure if the high school population really goes.
Don't, but that would be funny to see.
It would be funny to see. So those are some of the fun, neat little innovative ideas. They're going to continue to do student surveys, which I know they do up here quite a bit. They do it at the elementary once or twice a year. Continue to have, monthly meetings with myself. I know Jim likes to meet with them at least once or twice a year, also to make sure that they're towing the line and on target. And the other thing is they're going to continue to source a lot of local products here. They use Lyman Orchards, they use Horton Farms, and they use Team D growers. They'd also like to find some local sourcing for strawberries. I know a lot of people think Jones. One of the issues you have to remember for local sourcing is the farms have to have the volume to be able to meet, and certain standards, health standards, to be able to meet a kitchen, a school cafeteria. Our health department might not be happy with what we think is acceptable versus what they think is acceptable, so we have to keep that in mind. And let's see, staffing, they feel that the current level of staffing is adequate. It's not to say that you might not see some new faces, because people may leave, they may retire, they may get moved from building to building. That would just be part of their normal operations. And finally, what was I going to say? Again, and it talks about, trying to keep students here at Massac would be potentially going off the National School Lunch Program, possibly having that after-school meal service, the food truck, and the smoothie bars. So those are some of their ideas, which, I don't know, I thought the food truck was really out of the box, personally.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would work, but it might be interesting.
Have they showed you any other school systems where they've tried any of these?
The food truck, no.
It's interesting,
It is
so I'm just
interesting.
curious if,
I mean, you have to remember, Sodexo operates on an international level,
Mhm.
so some of their ideas, they might have food trucks in Florida, and we just don't realize it because, you know,
Plus, they do a lot of corporate business. I bet you
They
they do at their corporate parks that they do food service for. They probably have that for, you know,
University
businesses.
level also.
sorry?
They're also at the university level.
Yeah.
Yes,
I know.
so
Yeah,
there
big
are,
time.
they
They do
have
that.
quite a range. You know, the whole concept of the menu applications, the menu apps and everything like that online, they actually already have that at their hospital system. So if you happen to be a patient at Bridgeport Hospital, you could actually order your food online through Sodexo. So, well, through the hospital, but it happens to be Sodexo preparing it. And I know it's something I think our parents would like, I'm sure the parents would like to see, you know, ingredients and content and food and things like that for you to prepare meals.
So it's really the board's pleasure. We could bring this back for a second review at our next meeting, or if you wanted to waive the first, a second review and vote tonight to go forward, it's really up to you.
What would everybody like to do?
Might as well vote tonight.
Vote? Okay. Do I have a motion then to approve Sodexo as our food service vendor? Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Jeff. Any further discussion? All in favor of keeping Sodexo? Great, motion passes. Thank you very
If
much.
you could pass your scoring sheets over, we'll collect those. Yeah, we'll
Right.
take them.
And then we'll put on the agenda for the next time to discuss whether or not we're gonna come off the national.
If you'd like, I could see if we can invite Alan in. Would that be a good idea?
That'd be great.
Sure.
Great, thank you. That'd be great.
Wait, who?
From Sodexo.
Nice
Alan
job.
Deacon.
Alright.
Yes, about that. That would be great. We'll have him come. Alrighty. We will move on to approval of the weather contingency plan for 2016-17 and 17-18. Jim, do you
What
want
we-
to talk about it?
Yeah, what we did with this, because we now have the regional calendar, we could go a couple calendars out in the future, so we have approved those, and now we'd like to just build in the same weather contingencies that we currently have for this operating school year, advance the dates. They're exactly the same kind of format, however, so many days by a date in February, so many days out, so that everybody knows, you know, at what point does April vacation become a possibility of coming to school on, with plenty of ample time to prepare accordingly.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the weather contingency plan for 2016-17 and 2017-18 as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Carlos? Any further discussion on this? All right, all in favor? Great, thank you. Motion passes. Do I have a motion to, well, does anybody have anything else before we move on to a motion to adjourn? All right, hearing none, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Thank you, Jim. All in favor? Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you.